This is the Lamzu Thorn, the lightest solid shell ergo mouse on the market.
Today we'll be going over the shape, specs, and other features of this mouse as well as testing its wireless performance. And stick around to see where this mouse ends up on our tier list. Before we get into the review, Lamzu did send us this mouse, however that has in no way affected our thoughts on the mouse. For reference, in this section, my hands are around 18 by 10 centimeters, and Eric's hands are around 18.5 by 10 centimeters.
The Thorn is a fairly unique tilted ergo shape. The overall side curvature bears some resemblance to shapes inspired by the Zowie EC series, such as the Death Adder V3, or Dave for short. The Thorn is a bit thinner overall, and significantly shorter than the Dave. A major difference between the shapes is that the left side curve on the Thorn does not extend as far back as on the Dave, and tapers in quicker. This change causes the Thorn to fill out more of the thumb area than the Dave, and restricts your thumb placement a bit more. However, the Dave has more intense right side curvature than the Thorn, which feels a bit sharper on the pinky when tightly gripping the mouse. The Dave also flares out to a sharp corner at the front, whereas the Thorn smoothly flares out slightly. The biggest difference between the two mice is that the Thorn has a much bulkier hump than the Dave, resulting in it pushing against and filling out your whole palm. For some people with narrower hands, the bulky hump may hit the pinky knuckle and prevent the finger from resting on the mouse as easily when extended. For me personally, the more rounded right side curve, narrower grip width, and larger hump gives the Thorn a more stable and consistent feel in an aggressive claw grip than the Dave. However, I think the Death Adder V3 is a bit safer and more flexible than the Thorn due to the less aggressive hump and left side curvature. Overall, I would most recommend the Thorn for pincer claw for those with hands larger than 18 by 10 centimeters, aggressive claw grip for those with 17 by 9.5 to 23 by 11 centimeter hands, knuckle claw grip for those with 18 by 9.5 to 23 by 11 centimeter hands, relaxed claw for those who have 17 by 10.5 to 21 by 12.5 centimeter hands, and palm grip for those with 16 by 9 to 19 by 11 centimeter hands.
The build quality is really good. The mouse has zero flex anywhere, and this is quite impressive for just a 53 gram solid shell mouse. And better yet, that weight is distributed throughout the mouse quite well, so this all contributes to a great feel in hand. My one issue with the build is that there is just the slightest bit of shell separation in the front left of the mouse, and this just happens to be where my thumb rests, so I get a bit of creaking when I hold the mouse.
The Thorn, as well as all the other newest mice from Lamzu, are all compatible with a 4K dongle. Polling stability is quite good at both 1000Hz and 4000Hz, but some systems may have trouble running 4000Hz due to its high CPU usage. The Thorn uses a 3395 sensor which has built-in motion sync capability. The motion sync implementation is alright, similar to other mice using Nordic 52840 MCUs with Compex firmware. When set to 1000Hz, the motion latency of the Thorn is about 0.5 milliseconds higher than that of the ZA13C. When set to 4000Hz, the motion latency of the Thorn is around 0.2 milliseconds lower than that of the ZA13C. The click latency at 1000Hz is decent, sitting at 1.8 milliseconds when set to 0 milliseconds debounce. On the latest firmware, raising the mouse to 4000Hz lowers the click latency to just 0.6 milliseconds in our testing, which puts it among the fastest wireless mice I've tested. Overall, I've been quite impressed with the performance of these new Compex Nordic mice, as they are now approaching the latency of large companies like Logitech and Razer. If you want to see more of these latency tests, consider giving us a like and subscribing.
The battery life comes in at about 70 hours on 1K Hz polling and 22 on 4K. When your mouse does die, it charges via USB-C, and the included USB-C cable with the Thorn just isn't very good. It's quite stiff and honestly reminds me of my cable on my old G502 wired. Unfortunately, the port on this mouse is on the smaller side, so not all other cables will be compatible with it if you're looking to upgrade to a more flexible cable. Lamzu has followed the trend of the mouse industry and went with opticals in the Thorn. Honestly, I'd have to say the Thorn has some of the best feeling opticals that I've tried so far, up there with Razer V3 opticals. The clicks have rather good tensioning, being fairly light and spammable. They do have some pre-travel, which you'll feel more the further up on the triggers you click, but it's not the worst. Additionally, if you click the buttons from the very front corners, the button can grind up against the other button, but this should affect very few people since it's pretty awkward to click from there, and even when you do, it doesn't grind all that much. Additionally, I don't love the scroll click on this mouse. It's fairly usable because it's quite stable. However, it's on the heavier side, so it's far from the easiest scroll wheel to click that I've used. The scroll wheel itself has very defined steps. I prefer it to be a bit looser, but it's honestly fine. The side buttons are quite good, very light, spammable, tactile, and are rather large, so they're quite easy to press.
The Thorn has a chalky matte coating that gets very grippy with a bit of moisture. This coating is one of the best for those with sweaty hands. but those with dry hands may find it somewhat slick and slippery. Lamzu just includes some very nice grip tape with the mouse, though applying it will change the dimensions of the mouse slightly. The skates on the Thorn are relatively small yet well-rounded, leading to a solid overall glide experience. I would prefer an option for larger skates as they tend to be smoother and more consistent, but the Thorn does not appear to be compatible with any other skate design. Still, I don't see aftermarket skates being necessary for this mouse. The Thorn has adjustable debounce down to 0 milliseconds, which allows for most clicks to be registered, though there does appear to be a CPS cap of around 28 on the mice with complex Nordic MCU implementations. The light and bouncy buttons make the mouse pretty easy to jitter on. I can hit 13-15 CPS on this mouse, which is similar to most others. For butterfly clicking, the buttons aren't particularly wide or narrow, but do protrude enough to comfortably hit with both fingers. I can hit upwards of 20 CPS when butterflying on this mouse. For drag clicking, the chalky, grippy coating is one of the best on the market, but the mouse caps at around 28 CPS, meaning I do not recommend it for drag clicking.
The Lamzu Thorn is a really solid mouse. It's lightweight, has a good and unique shape, good build quality, a great implementation of optical switches, has a pretty good implementation of 4K polling. There really isn't much wrong with this mouse, making it a no-brainer for S tier on our tier list. Additionally, I think this mouse is a solid value at just $92 plus another $14 for the 4K dongle. If you're super tight on money, maybe this isn't the mouse for you, but I'd say that this price is more than reasonable given the great quality mouse you'd get.